So before I start my presentation, there was one thing that I wondered when Mr. Mitsotakis was speaking. I think it's not very easy to be a politician in this global digital age. And it's not very easy to be a national politician. And why? Because digital has no borders. Look at the growth in digital. What are the successful companies? They are all global companies. Look at what they have. If we look at the past, we actually had companies growing through production of scale, so the cheapest and the best input and the best output as a product, and then a supply chain. But that's not how it is today. The companies that grow the fastest are based on what? On data, on services, on value creation, and they are global. So the environment for a national politician is basically changed. There are no borders of growth, and it's super difficult. In Brussels, we actually discuss how can we actually tax? How can we get tax for a national state in a digital global economy? So it must be so damn difficult to be a national politician in a global digital economy. I would not like to change seats, so I hope that your politicians realize that and realize that the scale of market, the things that a company needs to grow today is money, so capital, it's the mindset, it's the competences, and it's the market, or the common market for Europe. Because if not, we don't have scale. I mean, Denmark, we're 5 million people. We're not even a pilot project. When I go to China, they ask me if it's my village. And I try to let them know that it's my country. There is no market in Denmark. We don't have a market. We have a market in Europe, the best. And that's why right now, in a digital economy, our national legislators, our national politicians really need to work with EU. And I'm so glad that we have both Merkel and Macron taking that leadership, because if not, I'm sorry, but we're lost. Then we don't have a home market. Greece doesn't have a home market. Sorry guys, but you don't. In a global economy, you don't have scale. And the last thing I did as the president before I became the general director of Digital Europe, the last thing I did was look at the scale-up environment in the Nordics. And I found out that even though the Nordics is brilliant in doing global scale-up, the problem is that within the two first growth phases of these companies, they leave Europe because they don't find the market, they don't find the mindset, they don't find the market that's big enough and scalable enough. So we cannot change these challenges within the country. We need to at least change it together in the EU. So apologize for being, running off from my presentations. I'll probably be skipping a lot of slides. I represent the digital industry in Europe. Our members have two chambers, direct memberships. Many of you here today and many of the sponsors, I have direct memberships. And the other chambers is association like SEPE here in Greece, who have been very active. In total, we represent around 36,000 companies across Europe. We have 40 associations on ground in the member states. And I'm going to try to bring, sometimes when I talk about the EU, Brussels is just so damn far away from, everyday life. It's like somewhere in there, and what are they doing in Brussels? But one thing I will tell you, at the moment, Brussels and the EU is taking leadership in regulation and investment in digital. And without that, sorry, Greece cannot solve this problem. So your attention to what's going on in the EU is not only affecting the EU and your country, it is affecting the whole world. I just returned from a trip to Japan and South Korea. I lived quite a long in China. They're all looking at us. They're looking at our GDPR, even though we might not love it. We need to talk data protection. And everybody is looking towards Brussels. So let me try to take you a little bit into Brussels today, and then I hopefully bring Brussels to Greece and Greece a little bit to Brussels. Let me start by doing what I shouldn't do, skip a lot of the slides because I already spoke about it. So basically what we do, if you look at the horizontal part, these are policy areas. So we work with privacy and security, we work with connectivity, we work with skills and jobs. We're actually the secretariat of the biggest skills and jobs coalition in Europe. And we work with all the regulatory, both on sustainability, but all the regulatory compliance rules from the EU. And why is that important? Well, let's look a little bit in that digital age. You said it better than anyone. It's changing the whole thing. And I did say, I think the biggest challenge is actually not for industry. That's actually for the governments. Because it's going to change the way we tax people. It's going to change the way we grow. It's going to change the way we think. And it's there. It's nothing like, it's like a little bit that like Europe has been sleeping a little bit. You know, we've been like, well, it feels good. We have the government there and everything is normal. It's here and it's changing. Look at the big companies. You know, they are huge. They are grown with a speed that we have never seen before. And many of them carry the innovative environment. Look at a company like Amazon. So if we look just 20 years back, let's say 10 years back, you went into a shop and you said, hello, I would like to buy this good. And somebody said, yes, just a second, I'll take it in the stock. Somebody walked out, they took the goods from the stock, they went in and said, I'm sorry, it's out of stock, but it will come maybe in 2 weeks, can you come back? You got a note. All these jobs, they're gone now. There are no distributors, there are no importers, there are no shops in the future. There's the internet. You order your good, and the day after it arrives, maybe with a drone. So what is changing? Don't be scared, because it's going to happen. What we have to do is to change our workforce to go from being a user to being a creator of technology. Going from a user to a creator, okay? So let's stop educating people to being a user of technology. Don't give the children in school an iPad. They know how to use an iPad since they're 2. Teach them how to do an iPad. That's what they need to know. They need to be creators, not users. Okay, why is digital so important? Well, the value is created by digital. It is no longer the product that you do. It is the service and the knowledge around the product that creates the value creation in industry. So why is it a little bit urgent that we do something about it? Because right now, 83% of all investment in AI will be outside Europe. That's a bloody bad story, but you know, we can all be depressed and sad about it, or we can say, I would like Greece to be the center of AI investment. We know for sure that within the next 10 years, and even shorter, we will need 500,000 specialists in the ICT sector. Start educating them. You know, a country like mine, we would die to get them. I mean, we try to open our borders, we try to import, you know, Asians and Indians and Chinese, because they know how to do this. Because they spent the last 2 decades educating their workforce for the future, which is something we just didn't do, and we don't have enough people. We don't have enough people. So why shouldn't we go to Greece instead? Greece is catching up. It's getting better and better and better, but as was said before, you are still lagging behind. But you have a chance. Everybody's got a chance in this. Nobody knows how to do this. Yes, Estonia, you know, they had, you know, hunger. You know, if you know the book Hunger, it's about how the hunger for development, because you are in a bad place, really drives development. Estonia was hungry. They wanted to get out of that area of the communism and grow. They were hungry. They created it. That opportunity is open for any country that takes that chance. Okay, first thing, look at your digital skills. Don't give them an iPad. Don't give them a board they can draw and print. It doesn't matter. It doesn't bring up anything. Give them the skills to code, to be creative using technology. It's super funny. If you haven't done it, go back to your companies and try it with your employees. It's super, super fun. Second of all, join the Skills Coalition that we are the secretariat of. We have it in 19 countries now. We promote collaboration between industry, governments, other private sector companies, associations, basically to promote digital skills and jobs. Second thing we need connectivity. It's a little bit like saying, I think we shouldn't build any highways. Let's take away the highways and do small paths so that we can walk on again, so we don't have cars. Why do you think we built that network of roads? We built it so we can transport things, so we can grow the economy. That's the growth of the economy. Our biggest challenge right now is that Asia and the US are basically using the same frequencies. We can't even agree in the EU on how to do our auctions and our spectral auctions and at the same time, because the governments earn money from these, and that's why they want to keep it the way it always is. Forget it. It's not time to discuss who is right and wrong, governments in EU. Align the thing. Let's get the 5G investment going in the countries. Let's get those European high-speed 5G motorways going all through Europe so we can grow from Denmark to Greece. This is how much 5G investment can create of jobs. How do you think, so if now we have automated the whole industry, everything is cool, and now we want to sell our services, we want the machines to run, we want the data to be analyzed, but we can't do it, and we can't transfer data because we don't have connectivity. This is like the highway. So if your government wants to invest in something, skills and connectivities are two of the main factors. So what's the third thing? It's of course that we have to protect ourselves. We need to know how to handle data. And yes, we all kind of love to hate GDPR. But at least we got started with it, and it's going to be so difficult. But you know, the rest of the country, they're looking at us thinking, oh my God, they started it. We got to do something. I was just in Japan. Hopefully we'll have a deal in place with Japan on adequacy soon. Hopefully soon Taiwan. Hopefully soon Korea. So we can create a bigger market for our companies to grow, and we can make sure that the data is taken care of. So again, this is not a question of do we have this within the EU. If we don't even trust each other, I'm so sorry, but how are we going to grow across border to the bigger markets? So for me, data protection, privacy, and security are one of the most. So this one you probably know because Greece play a major role by ENISA here in Greece on the cybersecurity certification. This is all the devices. We saw it before, everything is connected. But when everything gets connected, you need to make sure that the devices that you have somehow has a classification. Without overreacting. Again, without overreacting. We have to be sure that we legislate against crime, not against, innovation. So it's easy. And we have in very close contact with the Commission to say, ease down, it's not that people want to do I developed this, I want to monitor everybody. Once it's discovered once, you lose all your market share anyway. So I would say, it's not that people do products to actually hurt you. If they do, it's discovered and they lose market share. So that's self-controlling. What we need to do is, of course, to make sure that we have some standards on critical infrastructure and that we have, for example, privacy by design when we design products and so on. Let me not turn back to the GDPR. It's going to be a bumpy road, but we need to go through it. It's there, and we need to do it. One thing I want to highlight for you is now the Commission came up with something called e-privacy. And people don't know really the difference, which I totally get, because e-privacy, data protection, what's the difference? And anybody, if I ask you, how many in this room would like e-privacy? Okay. How many of you know what the e-privacy directive is? A couple. Good. So don't let yourself fool. E-privacy is something that is put on top of GDPR, okay? And basically, it gives the industry a demand that even though a machine talks to a machine, it needs consent. So the one machine says, hello, I need consent from you, and the other one goes, no, you cannot have it. And there's a lot of things in that directive that will stop innovation the night over. For example, the Cambridge Analytica scandal, if we look at what really happened, then everybody said, yeah, but that's why we need e-privacy. Bollocks. That's not true. We have everything in the GDPR that we need to prevent this. We can punish by the ones who are actually the intruders. We know how to protect in the future. So everything we need is basically the GDPR. So this one is, to me, one of the ones that we say, we support data protection, we support cybersecurity, but this one is out of hand. This one is one of the ones that will put a lid on innovation of products and services, and it has to be thought through again. So for us, it's a no-go. It's too much, and we should focus on really getting a very good and aligned implementation of the GDPR and use that instead of adding stuff on top we don't even understand yet. Okay, so the last one, I would like to talk a bit about investments. Free flow of data. The free flow of data, now we discuss it within the EU, but soon we will also, again, as I said, discuss it outside the EU. If we have the free flow within EU, then we can really transfer data, make our industry, and that value creation. I started by saying all the value creation is by the data and the services. So without the free flow data, which goes through the council at the moment, so hopefully Greece is pro, we are not going to have that growth. We need the free flow of data. We need to be able to transfer data across borders, at least in the EU. Again, if we don't trust that with the EU, I ask myself, why the hell did we spend 60 years trying to trust each other and make growth also for Greece to pull everybody up? This will make a tremendous difference in growth. This will secure that our companies, also made in Europe, will be able to grow within Europe. That our SMEs can actually grow within Europe. And that they don't have to leave to have a uniform market. So this is extremely important regulation that is passing through trilogues at the moment. Happy to talk more about it afterwards if anybody wants more. Okay, so the Commission has just launched a new thing on AI. AI is the main, so remember, it's not data mining, it's not data analytics. AI is when our brains and the intelligence that we normally have inside of our head is replaced by technology. That it actually makes conclusions that we only thought that we only could. Honestly, or it thinks of solution. I would like to go to Greece. Can you find me the cheapest ticket? Do you have any of these devices? You go, Alexa, find me a ticket to Greece, and it goes on search. Personally, I love it. I'm not scared. What's missing in my fridge? If you look for 2 years back, can you just make sure that everything is filled, that I have for my shopping list? Yes. I would love it. It will free so much. It's like, when we had the cars, somebody had to walk with a flag in front of the car because maybe somebody will die in front of the car. Okay, we got rid of all that stuff. Today, we're super scared. Oh my God, what do I do for a kid? I can't shop? To me, it's like, yes, I think it's the coolest thing in the world. But it brings other questions. What about the ethics? When do we stop? And this is also why one of the big discussions that we had with the EU-Asian discussions that we just had last week is to have a human-centric AI approach. Human-centric AI approach. What does it mean? It means that we look how we want it to develop. What is it that we want from it? What kind of principles do our governments take towards the development of AI? And that is very dear to my heart, and I'm super active, and hopefully now the AI group of the Commission is being set down, and I've applied to be in there. Because I want that discussion not only in the EU, I want that discussion to be global. Because we can be the good guys, but we're not alone in a global world, so we need to make sure that it's a global discussion. Let me go very fast, because if not, I'm gonna bore you. This talks for itself. Don't be scared. Get in the fight. Get in the development. It's here. If you don't do it, somebody else will, and you'll be left behind. So I would rather sit and drive the bus and make sure we go in the right direction than I would like to sit in the back making people scared. Again, this is what your kids should be doing. They should be understanding this in school. And that's the major pressure you should put on your politicians. Say, we give you our tax money to educate our young people. This is what they should do. Go and do that instead. Okay, lagging behind, let's not get depressed. Investment, last point. I entered this very executive, fantastic group in the Commission with Commission Moedas, who has the money. We looked at what technology should we have in the industrial plan. And it was all like nanotechnology, very high level things. And I said, listen guys, for me, there are 3 things that you need to invest in. You need to invest in AI, you need to invest in connectivity, and you need to invest in cyber technologies. These 3 you need to get right. And today they're there, so hopefully everything, the investment plan will be followed through, and they are all in the investment plan. A little bit on the digital hubs. There is for sure in the new investment framework, there will be a huge focus on SME growth, on the digital hub, and more investment in digital. As you see, 6 of them is planned to be in Greece, and they will have an increased amount of funds on the digital agenda. So what we also know now, it's not finished, it has to pass through and be decided. We know that the funds for digital has been tremendously boosted. Right now, 15% is on digital. So we will have more money for what? Let me show you. Research and innovation, for digital transformation of industries and SMEs, for strategic investments in general in development and innovation, and for something called the Digital Europe, which is nice for my organization because that's what we call, so we like that, really in skills and funds for skills. So, this investment framework is from 20 to 27. And now is the time for your government to sit down and find out how to spend that money correctly. And it's going to be much more about public-private partnerships. So the industry, there is no good government that can do this alone. There's no, in the digital age, there is no government who can do their digital strategy alone. Because, why? The knowledge is with the industry. So, and we carry a huge responsibility to go to our governments and support them. Give them our knowledge. I always say, if you have knowledge, then you are obliged. You are obliged to give it to someone so they can do public good. So let's kind of get the industry together and let's help our governments. Let's help the EU to grow one common digital single market. Thank you.